And we are live. Welcome to Take Note with your host, Ananda Murray, and my co-host, as always, Kaylee Kanana. We are here with our new friend, Micheal Cepress, and we are going to play some songs today. We're going to talk. We're going to get to know Micheal a little bit. Literally, it's like a fresh getting to know you. I love that when it's like when I'm actually getting to know somebody in front of other people. So thank you for being here, brother. I appreciate it.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for the invite. Thank you both.
The context of this is Micheal sent a message to me on social media saying, "You seem like a lovely person," and
You were right, Micheal. You were right. He is a lovely person.
he melted my heart. He melted my heart. So I said, "Well, you seem, if not equally as lovely, superiorly lovely, if that's even a word."
We're having a loveliness
And
contest.
we were having a loveliness contest basically, and so I said, I've got a really nice podcast that I think you would look very handsome on, and so here we are, and it's really cool to have you here. So the kind of premise of this specific podcast,
and this is our 10th episode.
Episode 10.
Episode number 10. So this is
right on.
It's not a big number, but it's not a small number either.
It's a serious number. 10
it's
is
a serious number.
So what were we thinking, Ananda? We really wanted to not only sing some songs, but delve into the meanings and the significance and the substance of songs and lyrics and such, right?
Yeah, just the. I feel that the last few podcasts that we've had, they've been so deep in terms of the conversation that we've had, the guests that we've had. And I think what really inspired us in the beginning to get on this Boudica platform, which is an amazing platform, taking all of these really like devotional, spiritual, conscious arts and putting them in a place, having conversations around the culture of spirituality, around the aesthetic of spirituality, and how that by adding that into our lives, whoever we are, how our life is exponentially uplifted and benefited. And one thing that inspired us specifically on the Take Note, Kelly and I are both musicians, but really to bring out the aspect of art, the aspect of poetry through music, and how meaning and message and culture and experience is conveyed through these arts. And so this is exciting. It's something that we're really kind of diving in for the first time publicly, but we're gonna hear a song from Micheal. We're gonna get to know Micheal a little bit, and then we'll possibly do some other songs as well, and just talk about the lyrics. Really dive into what is the message behind the song, into the song.
Yes. Okay, great. So Micheal, I want to officially welcome you, and would you be so kind as to perhaps start by playing something, and then we can hear a little bit about you as a person, and also talk about this song of yours. Is that okay?
Sure, that sounds just fine.
You can open the show for us.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. When you mentioned first off, thank you both, truly, for not only a wonderful introduction to your show here, your podcast, but also to such a really sweet start to brand new friendships.
Yeah.
I will confess I often have a hesitance or an odd feeling around the internet and the digital world in general, because I'm really an analog guy, you know. But this has reminded me that we can become very, very connected face to face really quickly with people all over the world through, formats like this. Yeah. And it's the music and the art that brought us together. So thank you for letting me be here.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. What's the song you're going to be playing for us called?
Yeah, the song is called Be Yourself Again. When Kaylee had mentioned a sort of conversation around spiritual discovery and music, this is one of the first songs I wrote that I felt I personally, and I hope others, that it sort of gets to the root of that sense of music helping you heal and work through your own spiritual path, or open that door for you.
Yeah, awesome.
Should I give it a go?
Yeah, please do.
Every night spent wondering if what you see is real. Everyday distractions from the work to really feel truest love inside of you, a voice unfiltered true. Stepping back from all the things you thought you really knew, to feel yourself and see yourself, to free yourself and heal yourself, to free yourself and be yourself again. Wrapped in dark and falling down, your sweet glow fading low. The company of misery, a song you've come to know. Every story they gave you proved to shout a lie. Not until you walked away to find your way to fly and feel yourself and see yourself, free yourself and heal yourself, to free yourself and be yourself again, to free yourself and see yourself, free yourself and heal yourself, free yourself to be yourself again. To be yourself again. Be yourself and step inside and finally see how nothing's lost or floated off too far. Dreaming back to all those days, a boy with pleasure eyes. Never question the journey of each bright, colorful light. Every vision a drawing done in shades, gold, blue, and red. The walk of love before you rolls 4 miles ahead. So free yourself and see yourself, heal yourself and feel yourself, to free yourself and be yourself again. So feel yourself and see yourself, free yourself and heal yourself, free yourself to be yourself again.
Woo! Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh man, super wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about that song before we kind of get into you. When you said that was like a song that you had written, when it was really kind of intentionally, you were saying like, okay, there's this journey happening. There's this journey happening in my spiritual life and your spiritual evolution. So it's like, that's, you had mentioned, and that's the impression I got. That's what you really wanted to communicate. But when did you write that song, and kind of what's a little bit behind that?
Sure. So, about 4 years ago, I made a pretty huge leap in my own life. I felt I had reached a point where a chapter of a certain sort had come to a close, and I knew that I needed to sort of cut free of a lot of different things and return to some version of my own truth. I didn't even necessarily know what that was, but I did know that I was denying myself the chance to do and be a lot of the things that I wanted to
Mm.
naturally do and be.
Yeah.
And so, I made what were some difficult but really important decisions. And this is one of those songs that came shortly after that moment, because I realized that along with making that leap into a certain unknown, I needed to think about what I was missing and what I needed to return to inside of myself.
Mm.
And so it was actually when I was in Wisconsin, in my childhood bedroom at the place where I grew up visiting family, the beginning of this song turned up, this idea of be yourself again, but it was actually the phrase from the last verse, dreaming back to all those days, a boy with pleasure eyes.
Mm.
This idea of like, wow, here I am, where in the same city I was born in, thinking about who I was as a boy
Mm.
and what that was like, and what about that sort of innocence and that truth of who I was as a little guy
Mm.
is still inside of me, maybe tucked away a little too far, but it's now my job to get reconnected with that.
Yeah.
So so that's how this one started. Yeah.
Wow. Recently, I've heard this idea that to heal, or like healing, means to become whole. Like the word healing actually comes from holing. It become literally to become whole. So I appreciate that you were reflecting on. Yeah, there's this aspect of you, that visionary, that dreamer aspect, that, what part of that had been left behind, what part of you had been left behind, or, maybe pushed aside. And
Right.
the song was kind of like a welcoming back. You had one line in there. It said, truest love inside of you, a voice unfiltered true. I really, that stuck out to me, the unfiltered true. Because a lot of times, I know, I'll speak personally. It's like I want my truth filtered a little bit. I don't want I don't want like the like sharp edges, or
I
the spiciness that's there, but I want it filtered a little bit. But the unfiltered truth is very, very sweet.
Yeah, yeah. The unfiltered truth and that unfiltered love that I
Mm.
think is also born into us.
Mm.
And the more we can do to find the tools to access it,
Mm.
I think the better off we are, And I think that's
Yeah.
the other part of this is the unfiltered truth of ourselves, and also just this amazing, natural, very human, unfiltered love that's inside of us
Mm.
all.
Yeah. It seems like we lost Kaylee. Hopefully, the thing is, internet was getting a little choppy. Um, so let's get to know you a little bit.
Sure.
So you're from Wisconsin originally,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so kind of tell us a little bit about like your background, like what,
Sure.
how, because you were saying that you lived in Seattle now,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So
So
what's taken you from Wisconsin to Seattle?
yeah, I grew up in the Midwest in a town called Wausau, Wisconsin, and yeah, there he's back. Welcome
Kelly's
back,
back.
Kaylee. and I've just always been artistic and creative by nature. I think
Yeah.
one of my favorite things to do as a little kid was to fill cups with colored water, food coloring and water, and I'd stand at the sink for hours and just mix colors, and mix the combinations and look at them through the light, and just naturally inclined to music and dancing. And so that's really, as a little boy, if someone asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I'd tell them an artist, because I
Yeah.
knew that I was an artist. And I guess that creative path has taken me a few different ways. Music has absolutely been a through line all the way along. Though as an adult and professionally, one of the things that happened was after art school and eventually moving out here to Seattle for a master's degree in art. I discovered fabric as another medium that I really love, and got very deep into clothing design and clothing construction, and I trained as a tailor. So along with always having music in my blood and making it in some capacity.
Yeah.
I paid my way through undergraduate school playing bars in the Midwest
Yeah.
for years and years, playing rock and roll, which I still love. But I've also really been into fabric as my other kind of creative outlet, and had my own fashion business for 12 years,
Wow.
designing and making menswear, and sort of colorful, exciting, what I think is exciting men's clothing.
Yeah.
But actually, talking about this sort of leap of faith made a few years ago, that was really about stepping away from the fashion business and returning to music. And so kind of where I'm at right now most recently is realizing that all of these things can play together. They can all dance together. I think any of us who love music understand that how we dress, how we present ourselves is another part of showing the world who we are, just like the lyrics of our songs are, just like the way we might express ourselves through an instrument or through a dance. So, yeah, I guess that's my off the cuff, quick version of who I am and what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Kelly, are you back with us, or how are you doing over there? Are you pretending to be frozen? Or are you really frozen? Oh, he's really frozen.
I think he's really frozen.
Oh no. It's Robot Kelly. Oh
It
goodness.
is Robot Kali. Well, maybe he'll join us again once the wire opens up again.
It's all the way. Oh, he's gone. It's all the way. It's all the way across the pond. That's a long way
Yeah.
for the internet to go.
Yeah.
Super cool. So a little bit, I mean, that's super interesting to me. Are you there, Kelly?
Hello.
He's
Hello.
back.
Welcome back.
I'm really sorry. The internet here isn't so good, so I hope that I can stick around for this podcast. Have I frozen again?
No, you're good. We hear you.
You're here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Glad
before
you
I
made it
freeze
back.
again, I wanted to comment on one line, which was, can you repeat it? Something about the walk of love before you stretches miles ahead.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, the lyric is every vision a drawing done in shades, gold, blue, and red. The walk of love before you rolls for miles ahead. So
how
feel
genius is
yourself. Yeah, thank you.
I really, really, really like that writing, and just this concept of love being a journey and like a path, and not necessarily an easy one as well, like one that stretches
Right.
miles ahead, rolls miles ahead.
Right.
I really love to kind of experience people's capacity and ability to articulate love, but in so many different ways, and especially that kind of concept of how love isn't just an action. It's not, it's not like love isn't, it's like breathing. It's something we have to constantly do. It's not just like
Right.
something you do once. It's a continuous path.
Right. Right. And I also think about love as being this thing that we can constantly recenter ourselves to. That it really is this core element. And like those of us who may have a meditation practice or something, that we're always actively kind of bringing ourselves back to a calm center, that love can be one of those center things that we always bring ourselves back to. So if life draws us off and we wander away and we get over here, and it's like no, come back to this place of love as a middle point that you constantly return to and check in with.
I like this analogy of love being like the breath, and I like that what you shared also, Michael. And I think just to kind of extend that even a little bit further, there is a way in which I can try to stop breathing, and it's unnatural, right? Like in breathing it's interesting because it's something that is involuntary. Sometimes it just happens. I'm gonna breathe naturally because I have lungs, and the lungs will need to be filled with air, right? So love in a very similar way. It's like I need to love, yet I can stop myself from loving, right? But like you said too, I could also bring my awareness back to loving and being conscious, being attentive to that. Just like with my breath, I'll breathe unconsciously, but being attentive to my breath is a completely different experience.
Yeah, yeah. And love is an amazing thing in that it affects everything in equal ways in all directions. When we love someone or something, they are changed by it, and we are also changed by the act of loving them. You know, and that's another part of it that I always try to keep in mind. It's when you give, the act of giving becomes a gift as well, just by its nature. You know.
Yeah. I wanted to look at Kelly. Do you have anything? I wanted to look at some of these other lines that were really sticking out to me. Oh no, Kelly freeze.
You may have.
Kaylee Kanina, don't freeze. I really like this, and I like the line that Kelly brought up also, the gold, blue, and red. And I liked wrapped in dark and falling down your sweet glow fading low. I think it really speaks to this point of, because spiritual life, in my experience and in the experience of many other people that I speak with, it's not just a path of ease and comfort. Like
Right.
last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a guest and we were speaking a lot about comfort and how comfort in many ways can become the enemy to an aspiring, person who wants depth in their life, because depth is not always comfortable, right? So this
Right.
line where you're saying wrapped in dark and falling down, your sweet glow fading low, right? So this aspect or this experience that one may have where it's like, I'm losing my luster, I'm losing my excitement for life, right? And or just the weight that comes about from seeking after something that's meaningful and potent.
Right. Right. And I think that's a moment, hard as those moments might be, would you say that that's often where the light kind of gets turned on, or the little a fresh realization gets made,
Yeah.
right? Because you land in this dark spot, the confusion. I had a wonderful instructor in art school who always said, keep yourself as confused as you possibly can all the time, because it's out of that place of confusion that you're going to hit the breakthrough. That's when you're going to find the new thing.
Yeah.
And have you found that in your own life, that that's been the case?
I would agree. Yeah, 100%. I think it's in those moments of tension, and when that tension breaks or when that tension shifts, right? When that tension shifts, that's when lessons that were previously unavailable in my previous circumstance or situation become then available, right?
Right.
And that tension is that growth. And we see this pattern throughout nature also in so many different ways of how first there's a shock, or first there's a fire, or first there's something of tension or pressure, and then something beautiful rises from that.
Is born out of that. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned recently kind of just this leap of faith. What did that really, because you were getting into fashion, you've started your own, you've created clothing. What did that look like, and kind of what spurred that on, coming from, because you said that clothing was really something that it was another aspect of this creative expression that was meaningful to you. What
Yeah.
brought you to that space of
Yeah.
transitioning to music?
Sure. It's interesting because fashion is still one of those things that has that creative sparkle for me.
Yeah.
But running it, having it in my life as a business, um, it can change things sometimes. I think anyone who has taken their passion and turned it into their primary way of life has realized that there's certain compromises you have to make along the way to. You might have to compromise your own creativity or your own passion for the sake of running a business and earning the money you need and da 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 da. So part of it for me was that, and I also another aspect was I was just in a place with my life where what I was giving the majority of my time to, while it was perfectly lovely things to do, there was nothing truly majorly traumatic about any of it, but it didn't match my own nature and my own voice as an artist. It was a number of things that were close, leaning in the direction of the general type of thing I saw myself doing, but they weren't right on the nose, my absolute artistic desire. And so I had to make the choice of just realizing I have to push pause on, or a clean stop on a lot of these things, and just wipe the slate clean for a while in order to figure out, okay, here I am. I'm a young artist. I have a lot of energy. I have a lot of passion. I have a lot of love. What do I actually want to do with it? And for instance, the clothing hustle had me not touching a guitar for years when it's like one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
So, it was a multifaceted thing for sure. But it really meant acknowledging when a chapter had come to a close, and I could sort of saw that, okay, that was wonderful. You say thank you. Thanks for that ride. It's come to an end. It's done now. I need to just clear the deck and start fresh. And that's what I've been. And now that was about 4 years ago. And I have a whole lot more music in my world now than I did 4 years ago because of that choice. And it's been great.
I love what you said, recognizing that the chapter is like coming to a close. And I think for me personally, that really resonated with me, because this last year was very much that in many ways of my life. And I'd felt kind of like this buildup, and, both in internal ways and both in kind of external physical ways, how I was like, oh, this is the wrapping up of a chapter. And I think going back to this idea about like those moments of tension, I'm reading a really wonderful story right now called the Ramayana, which I don't know if you've ever read the Ramayana, but it's, I realized today, not only was it like the inspiration for Star Wars, but it was also the inspiration for Super Mario Brothers. It's just like the whole paradigm of like, saving the princess, the damsel in distress, the bad guys like come and stolen her. But anyway, this Ramayana is a beautiful story. But I was thinking at the end of each chapter, there's always this cliffhanger, right? There's this tension. There's like, okay, it completed, but then what's coming next? What's happening next? And becoming adept in our life to recognize those chapter transitions. Like the answers may not be there, right? But being able to close the chapter and say, okay, I'm ready to enter into the next chapter to see what is revealed. And I think that's a skill. It's an art.
I think it is an art. And, I've been blessed with a number of friends in my life who are in their 70s and in their 80s, people who are as much as twice as old as I am. Yeah. And that's one of the most amazing things I've learned from my friendships with them and talking to them, is that if you look back on your life, you realize that there are these sort of broad brushstrokes that move through your life. And for a while you do one thing and it runs everything's on a cycle. Everything runs its course. And that you can either see what that course for what it is and embrace its beginning, middle, and end, or I think we've also either ourselves or seen it in others where they're not ready for that natural ending to come, and they keep hammering away at it and hammering away at it and trying to
Yeah.
make it work and trying to make it work. But
Yeah.
generally, I think you just end up making yourself kind of miserable
Yeah.
in that process. So yeah, I'm grateful to my elders for helping me see that. Yeah, we can pay attention to those cycles and see them as a blessing. Really see them as a blessing rather than something that's happening to you and that's hard to work through. But just it's the nature of anything.
How do you go about that personally, seeing things as blessings? Like when things are, recently a few friends of mine, they're having a conversation of becoming worthy of our suffering. There's this quote by Viktor Frankl that to be, I'm not sure if you've ever read Man's Search for Meaning. Have you read that book? I highly
I'm
recommend
familiar with
it.
it, but I haven't read it cover to cover. No.
Yeah. So in this book, he has this quote. I think he's actually quoting someone else, but this idea of becoming worthy of our suffering, right? Which can sound very dark, but it is this, like you said, am I fighting the circumstance right now? Am I fighting these, these situations that appear to be closing in on me and making my life difficult? And why is this happening to me? Right.
Right.
But
right.
the recognition of saying, like, let me embrace this. Let me move forward. Right. Let me recognize and move forward with grace. Let me see that grace is descending in my life right now. So my question is, like, personally, how do you go about doing that? How do you go about keeping that mentality, that consciousness in the difficult times that you face?
Yeah. How do I do that? One thing I do, I work really hard to see things from all angles, if possible. And when something's happening, whatever it is, good, bad, or otherwise, to just realize that my perspective is only one perspective pointing at that thing.
Yeah.
Every other person, Mother Nature, the spirit world, all of these things are all engaging in what's happening. And that there's a number of, it's a multifaceted thing that has a lot of influence that's creating it to happen. And so I start there, and then I immediately ask, okay, what's the gift in this? What's the blessing in this that either I'm not seeing, or that or what is the blessing that I can see? And just express my gratitude for it. And I think another part of it is, while it's mysterious to me, I do believe in some sort of higher order or a bigger plan guiding us forward.
Yeah.
And so as things unfold, I try to keep in mind that it's all happening for a particular reason. I might not know what that reason is. I don't know if anyone knows what that reason is. But I think it's this. It's maybe that where faith comes into the picture, where I just trust that there is some sort of greater good at work. I'm, as a human being, as a artist, I'm one of many passengers just moving through this experience of life. And if you can surrender to that a little bit, it really does make it easier. It makes it lighter. And so I guess those are a few things I try to keep conscious of and remind myself of. I mean, that's where the work is, right? When every day you have to remind yourself of, like, no, that's where this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
It helps it feel a little less like, all this stuff's flying at me from all over the place and I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate this principle of surrender that you brought up. There's if one wants to be, at least I'll speak from my, my own experience. if I'm, if I'm saying, well, I want to be rational, I want to be empirical around, the choices that I make in my life. Well, then if I look at my life and see how circumstances that were beyond my comprehension, beyond my organization, how I've seen those circumstances play out in life, the serendipitous nature of the events that have unfolded in my life that have brought me to this place, and if I look honestly about the kind of at what percentage did my decision making really have in the outcomes of a lot of these
Right.
things, right? I'm
Right.
involved. I'm
Sure.
involved. I'm a part of the
Sure.
equation, but a part. And
Right.
so this principle of surrender, in Sanskrit, there's a term sharanagati, and it's described that this process of sharanagati, or the process of surrender, is the actual process to peace. It's the actual process to finding the innermost fulfillment of our heart's desire, of our heart's longing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's in that sacred space of surrender that we have the most opportunity to become whole, to become, real, so to
Right.
speak. Right.
Right.
And so I appreciate that you brought that up, that our relationship with the circumstances of life, right? That seeing the unfoldment of my life circumstances, and then knowing, a term that I really like to use, the self beyond circumstance, and surrendering to that self beyond
Mm.
circumstance
Mm-hmm.
in any given situation.
Right. Right.
Mm.
Right. I mean, that's huge. And gosh, we live in at least there's such an aspect in contemporary American culture,
Mm.
capitalist culture, of getting things under control, putting them in order, forcing them to be what you want them to be,
Mm.
and the sort of endless grind for for your world being what you want it to be, which is
Mm.
actually quite the opposite of what I find and believe a lot of goodness and abundance comes from, is
Mm.
that idea of surrender, not trying to strong arm anything into sort of beating things into submission, but to instead just release it all so that
Mm.
the natural order and flow
Mm.
can have some space to come in,
Mm.
you know?
Mm.
So the blessings and the the aspects that you are intended to live can really take form.
Mm.
Your absolute nature can bloom
Mm.
because you've given it some space to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. A question came to my mind. What is a lot of what is your process of songwriting? Like you mentioned the song that you shared with us, it was, you were visiting home, and I'm sure it's variegated. So I guess kind of a sampling of how do you go about writing songs?
Yeah,
Either you could answer, like practically, or just kind of consciously, what is your process?
sure. One thing that happens a lot is I hear these sort of fragments,
Mm.
and I just grab them. And when I say I hear them in my own mind,
Yeah, yeah.
usually I get these little blips of phrases or words that I think really dance together nicely.
Yeah.
And whenever I hear one, I grab it and I write it down.
Mm.
And so here in the studio, I have, this sort of stacks of little yellow pieces of paper where every time I grab one of those phrases, it's like a seed,
Yeah.
it's like just a little seed. And so then part of the songwriting process becomes grabbing one of those seeds and being like, all right,
Yeah.
what does it want to become?
Yeah.
What's its rhythm like? What does that feel like? Is it like a sort of fun, sexy, dancey thing? Is it a
Yeah.
soul deep kind of thing? Um, and Ananda, I've also had these kind of amazing moments where a whole song just seems like it flies out of the sky, and it's like a
Yeah.
mosquito that goes bzzz right in my ear.
Yeah.
And I have a few quick seconds to grab a pen and an instrument to try to hammer it out and get it down.
Yeah.
And they just happen.
Yeah. It's such a magical experience. I love hearing about songwriters and their process, and I love seeing the similarities. I love seeing
Yeah.
also the nuances in approaches to music. I know Kelly this last year he had written over 70 songs. I mean
Yeah.
he's one of the most prolific persons that I know. But he shared with me once, and I really appreciate it, because I was going through my notebook, and I have, scores of unfinished songs, scores of
Sure.
lines or ideas. And one of his reflections was, unfinished songs are your best friend, because you just have it. Yeah. And I've seen too in my life that maybe I start a song and I hit a wall. I can't go past a certain verse, or I can't go past the chorus. And then for a year it just sits there, and I'll go back to it every now and then and like test the water, and the water's still cold. But then all
Sure.
of a sudden, through life experience, through realizations, through whatever it is that I'm experiencing internally, externally, all of a sudden that song becomes ripe, and then it comes out. And then, like you said, there's other times that it just unfolds almost instantaneously. There's this, it's
Yeah.
like this download where, I really love talking about this word inspire, literally to spirit enters into us, right? That love supreme, that the divine has a way in which to express himself through the minute particles of consciousness, these living entities throughout this world,
Yeah.
and all the little creative
Yeah.
expressions.
Yeah. Yeah. And that it's available to all of us. That's one thing that I always try to remember, is that sure, artists, we might be inclined to this type of thing more so than some others might, but I really believe that versions of that inspiration are available to all of us. And so anything we can do to clear away the cobwebs and clear the fog of our spirit, our mind, just to keep it really transparent and open, so that the inspiration can happen, and that when it's happening, we see that it's happening, and we can do something with it.
Yeah,
Know?
totally.
Yeah.
So I want to give an update on Kaylee. He wrote to me. He said his internet is almost out of data, unfortunately. So he wants to
Okay.
send his apologies, but so he won't be able to join us again. But I do want to ask you, would you have any other songs that you'd like to share, that you'd be able to share?
I suppose, or would you like to share one?
I would love to hear another song by you, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry to
how about
put you
one
on the
that-
spot.
Oh no, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, yeah, I've got songs. This is kind of a new one that I'm still working on. It hasn't
Cool.
been recorded yet, but it's fresh, and it's an idea of a song that I feel okay sharing. So
Cool.
yeah.
Okay.
It's called "Let the Love Shine In." Here, let's do like this. There it is. Open the door and let the love shine in. Be there to feel how the day begins. Cleaning sadness out your way. Open the door and let the love shine in. Open the door and let your soul be free. Show me that's something you long to be. Even when the goodness causes pain. Open the door and let your soul be free. Know the time will call you to face the strain. Arrive alive to walk you through with sense and grace, to ease your pain. Open the door till you can see the light. Face the sun to let it guide you right to to where the fears all melt away. Open the door till you can see the light. Come see the sunlight through the rain. Open the door and let the love shine in.
Oh man, that's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
That's something you're in the process of working on.
Yeah, yeah. Beginning to turn it into a recording that can be shared, and yeah, it's one of those where I think all the parts are there, and the spirit and the message is there, and it's like, okay, how do I want to refine it and finish it?
Yeah, totally. Are you in your process? Do you do a lot of recording on your own? Or are you recording do you have a studio that you work out of, or?
Both of those things, yeah. So I have my studio here at home. I do a lot here, and then I'm blessed with a wonderful handful of musical collaborators here in Seattle that I also pair with. A engineer and producer who I'm particularly close with, and he's the one who I volley my ideas with, and we constantly work on recordings. And then and also have a band for those times when the whole band wants to be on the recordings, or when we can be back on stage, which is another thing I really love to do, but haven't been able to for a while now.
Yeah. What's the band called when you guys do perform?
When we do when we do it, it's I use my name.
Okay, cool.
I'm just Micheal Cepress, but with the full orchestration of a band.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's been one thing that I lived as a monk for about 5 years, and the practice that we were part of was the Bhakti tradition, and a huge thing was kirtan. Have you ever heard of kirtan before?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So just that aspect of communal music, right? How potent that is. I mean, it's amazing when humans express music just even as an individual, but what to speak when humans are communicating via music and playing music together.
Yeah, and I think in this current moment, the COVID moment, so many musicians have been put in this spot that's so different than what we're used to. Those of us that love getting together with others and really making music as a group, as a sort of communal flowing thing.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's like, oh no, we have to be by ourselves so much more than we otherwise would.
Yeah.
It's been definitely been a fascinating year and a half for so many of us.
Yeah, totally. Well, super cool. I think I'll share one song since we're having like a song share. And Kelly just released a song actually today. He released it on SoundCloud, which is a song that I'm just blown away by everything that he's written this past year. We've actually never met in person. Our friendship has only existed digitally thus far, so I'm looking forward to the day that we do get to meet. But yeah, Kelly's a wonderful friend. He's an amazing artist, and so anyone listening, if you haven't heard his song already, it's called "Wrong Wall," and it's a beautiful song that he composed and recorded in the last few days. He's a genius. So I want to share a song that actually you've sparked my memory for. It's a song that I wrote this last year as well, and it's very much. We talked a lot about the acknowledging and recognizing the transitions and chapters of our life, and becoming adept at that, at noticing, okay, this is an end, this is a close, and this is something shifting into something new. So this is a song that I wrote. It's called "Ripen Off the Vine." And I saw a little tomato one day. I was doing a little walking meditation. I saw a little green cherry tomato that had fallen off the little scrawny tomato bush that we had in our backyard. And I saw it there for about a week. And then after a week, I saw that little green unripe tomato had become ripened. And it just spawned on me the idea of, and then I looked up actually later after I'd already written the song, but that to ripen off the vine, a lot of times when vegetables and fruits do that, it's because on the vine they're getting too much nutrients, too much oxygen, and they're kind of, they get lazy, you could say. But off the vine they have to actually breathe on their own. There's a process that their cells actually have to go through to survive, to get sweeter. And so that's kind of the spirit of this song. So we'll share that.
Terrific, please, yeah.
Some things will ripen off the vine. Some fruits get sweeter off the tree. If I don't jump, I'll stay ground bound in the shallow side, but still I drown. No, if I don't swim, if I don't fly, if I don't move, when I feel green, my tendency is there to cling. But growth is often partnered with a sting. Anyone who's loved before knows what I mean. I don't know the time to grow, but it knows me. Fear isn't always such a friend. It tends to take away more than it lends. It tends to break apart before it bends. It makes more enemies than friends. What you don't know will help you grow when you let it go. I said some things will ripen off the vine. Whoa, I said some things will ripen off the vine. Whoa, I said some things will ripen off the vine. Whoa, some things will ripen off the vine.
Yeah, right on.
I was losing my headphones last few seconds of that.
That's a really nice one. That's a really nice one. Yeah.
Thanks, brother. I'm so much looking forward to this, being able to, or I mean, we can do it now, but just being able to share music with each other.
Yeah.
It's actually a very wonderful experience, and I'm appreciating that in a fresh way right now, because being able to hear your songs, hear you talk about them, hear the spirit behind them, and being able to share myself as well. I wish Callie was here. You'd be able to share as well, but it's a very wonderful experience.
I totally agree. Yeah, it feels great, and this is a gift we can give one another for sure. And I hope everyone that's watching and enjoying the podcast today is also getting a little something from it too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you again for being with us, and like you said at the beginning, just the fresh starts of a new friendship and relationship.
Yeah.
Looking forward to at some point, if I'm out in Michigan, so if you're ever out in Michigan, I live in Ipsatucky or Ypsilanti, Michigan, by Ann Arbor, and so if you're ever out in this neck of the woods, I'd love to meet you. And then likewise, if I'm ever out there, I'll reach out, because it's
by all means,
the connection's been made.
It has, and my door is always open to you for sure.
Cool. Thanks for reaching out to Kelly and making this connection happen.
My pleasure.
Do you have any upcoming music or anything, like where can people find you? Where can people kind of hear more of you?
Yeah. my website is a good place, just michaelcepress.com. And anything that I've recorded and released so far is up on all of the major streaming platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, those places. And I have a pile of new music that I'm just working away on, and it might be an album, it might be a number of singles in the future, but I just make and share it when it feels ready.
Cool. Okay, we'll look out for it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you again for your time, and thank you for your sharing. And
thank you, Ananda. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we'll end the broadcast, but just hang on afterwards. I like to just touch base.
Okay.
So thank you everyone for listening. We will we'll see you next Thursday for Take Note.